On Wednesday, January 8th, 2020, at 5:15 a.m., Ukraine International Airlines flight PS752 was preparing to take off from Tehran airport. Hours earlier, an IRGC Tor M1 missile system was positioned 40 kilometers west of the airport. Just a few hours prior, the Islamic Republic had launched a missile attack on the Ain al-Assad airbase in Iraq, and everyone was talking about the beginning of an all-out war. According to the IRGC commanders, the military readiness level in the country was at its highest and most serious. In any normal government, this situation would have led to the cancellation of flights. But the Islamic Republic deliberately kept the skies open, intending to use passenger flights as a human shield. According to the Islamic Republic, after 3 rounds of coordination between the control tower and air defense, permission to take off was granted to the pilot. Flight PS752 took off with a 57-minute delay. Just minutes before, Atlas Global, a Turkish airline, had suspiciously altered its flight path from previous days to pass behind the Tor M1 system. The reason for the 57-minute delay remains unclear, though in court, the airline disclosed that around 15 minutes were spent removing a malfunctioning tow truck suspiciously positioned behind the plane. Unlike many other international airports, Tehran Airport was in one of its quietest states that night. Whether passengers were removed from the plane before departure remains an unanswered question. But we do know that at least 3 passengers were asked if they held American passports. The Islamic Republic specifically selected Flight PS752 from among that night's flights to be targeted. At 6:12 a.m., 3 minutes after takeoff, the first missile was launched toward the aircraft. 25 seconds later, as the pilot attempted to return the plane to the airport, a second missile was fired. 3 minutes and 42 seconds of terror engulfed the passengers. 3 minutes and 42 seconds that will forever remain a nightmare for the survivors of this crime. Who ordered it? And who carried it out? We are in pursuit of the truth. And until justice is served, we will neither forget nor forgive those who authorized and executed this crime.
من و داغ جگرسوز و دلی مملو ز کینه، من و عکسی که روز و شب شده سوزن به سینه، به عکس سینه بشناسند مرا از چه تبارم، ز رنگ چهره میخوانند دلی 100 پاره دارم. زمانی یخ زده در لحظه شوم و پریشان، من و خون گریه هایی که از برایش شب زنده دارند به دلنام و کلام و راه نیکت زنده دارند. چشم مردمان ما چو خورشید درخشانی کنون ضحاک بیم سرخی خون تو دارد که از هر قطره‌اش صدها گل نو سر برآرد. به نامت هم قسم راسخ قدم رو به رهایی، شب تاریک بسوزانیم به صبح روشنایی. بخواب ای جان شیرینم بدان آن روز موعود رود بر آسمان از خانه ضحاکیان دود. درفش کاویانی را برافشانیم بر این بوم، پرد بار دگر سیمرغ جای کرکس شوم. بخواب ای جان شیرینم که از این پرگوهر خاک ببریم دست جلادان و دشخیمان ناپاک.
Five years have passed since Flight PS752 was shot down by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Today, you will witness 5 years of stories of crime, lies, struggle, longing, resilience, and anger, through the voices of survivors and the Families Association and the videos that will be shown. Any semblance of closure is only possible with the revelation of the truth and bringing the culprits to justice. Since the tragic shooting down of Flight PS752, today, January 8, is recognized as the National Day of Remembrance for victims of air disasters. Unfortunately, in recent weeks, several aviation tragedies around the world have occurred, reigniting the pain of PS752 families and plunging millions into shock and sorrow. The downing of Azerbaijan airline flight 8243 by the Russian government and the Muan airport crash in South Korea have claimed dozens of lives, leaving survivors in an uncertain state for years to come. Today, on the National Day of Remembrance for Victims of Air Disasters, please rise if you are able to, and join me in observing a moment of silence in memory of the victims of Flight PS752, Air India Flight 182, Ethiopian Airline Flight 302, and the 2 flights from Azerbaijan and South Korea. Thank you. Please take your seats. I thank Gulrukh Aminian for her performance at the beginning of our program today. My name is Pega Solari, and I am here as a volunteer for the Association of Families of Victims of Flight PS752. As your host today, I welcome and thank you all, families of victims, dignitaries, VIP guests, friends, volunteers, and members of different media for being here today. I'd like to acknowledge that we are gathering on lands that have been home to First Nations peoples from time immemorial. We acknowledge that what we now call Richmond Hill is on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas, of the Credit Nation, First Nation, and the Mississauga and Chippewa nations of the Williams Treaty. We also recognize that we are on part of the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat. We also like to acknowledge all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis peoples from across North America, also known as Turtle Island, who now reside in the city of Richmond Hill. I now invite Albor Sadiqi, President of the Association, to the stage.
مهمانان گرامی، آقای نخست وزیر، وزرا، اعضای پارلمان و سفرای محترم، از شما برای حضور در این مراسم که به گرامی داشت و یادبود 176 مسافر، کودکی به دنیا نیامده و خدمه بیگناه پرواز PS 752 می‌پردازد، صمیمانه سپاسگزارم. امروز 5مین سالگرد فاجعه غیرقابل تصور سرنگونی پرواز 752 اوکراین است. 5 سال از این زخم گشوده در آسمان تهران می‌گذرد. زخمی که همچنان تازه و خونچکان است. زخمی که نه تنها ما خانواده‌ها که میلیون‌ها نفر را در سراسر دنیا به ویژه در ایران، کانادا، اوکراین، بریتانیا و سوئد تحت تأثیر قرار داده است. انجمن ما با 3 مأموریت اصلی تشکیل شده است: حمایت از خانواده‌های داغدار و آسیب دیده، حفظ یاد مسافران و مهمتر از همه، تلاش برای کشف حقیقت و اجرای عدالت. امشب می‌خواهم در اشاره‌ای کوتاه درباره هر یک از این اهداف صحبت کنم. اول، مأموریت ما در حمایت از خانواده‌های جانباختگان. ما در انجمن خانواده‌ها در روبرو شدن با این جنایت عمدی و قتل عام هولناک، جمعی کوچک اما منسجم را تشکیل داده ایم. به یکدیگر قدرت، آرامش و همبستگی بخشیده ایم. ما نه تنها با غم مشترک خود بلکه با عزم و اراده به هم متکی، وابسته و متصل هستیم. وجود این جمع و چنین انجمنی راهی برای گفتگو و تضمین اجرای عدالت در آینده است. دوم، حفظ یاد و خاطره مسافران. هر یک از 177 جانباخته این فاجعه داستانی منحصر به فرد دارند. زندگی شاد و پرجوش و خروشی که با رویاها و دستاوردهایشان دنیا را جای بهتری برای زندگی می‌کردند. برای بزرگداشت میراث آنها انجمن تلاش کرده است تا این روایت‌های فردی را مستند و به دنیا معرفی کند. ما با تأسیس وبسایت، با مصاحبه، با انتشار کتاب، با سفر کردن، با گفتگو با مردم و با حضور دائمی در شبکه‌های اجتماعی تلاش کرده ایم این یاد زنده بماند. مکان‌های یادبودی در این باره در شهرهای وینیپگ، ونکوور و ریچموند هیل در نظر گرفته شده است. ضمن اینکه در ایران هم با وجود سرکوب شدید تلاش‌هایی شده است. ما فکر می‌کنیم با وجود تمام این تلاش‌ها وجود یک مکان یادبود دائمی در کانادا ضرورت دارد. مکانی ملی و دائمی که جنایت صورت گرفته را بازتاب دهد و برای همیشه روی زمین بماند. برای دستیابی به این هدف ما به حمایت جامعه و تصمیم گیرندگان نیازمندیم. بگذارید مکانی ایجاد کنیم که عشق و عدالت در هم بیامیزد، مکانی که به آیندگان گوشزد کند بیرحمی آدمیزاد تا چه اندازه بیرحم است، بی‌مرز است و تلاش برای جستن حقیقت و اجرای عدالت تا چه اندازه میتواند جامعه‌ای سالم در پی بیاورد. در نهایت جان کلام و اساسی ترین مأموریت ما در جستجوی حقیقت و عدالت نهفته است. طی 5 سال گذشته ما هر راه ممکن را برای کشف حقیقت و پاسخگو کردن عاملین این جنایت طی کرده ایم. انجمن با دولت کانادا و دیگر کشورهای متضرر همراهی کرده است تا اطمینان حاصل کند که عدالت تنها یک آرزو نیست، بلکه واقعیت دارد. با هم گام‌های مهمی برداشته ایم. شکایت رسمی به دیوان بین المللی دادگستری ICJ علیه جمهوری اسلامی ایران ارائه شده است. 4 کشور متضرر شکایتی را به سازمان بین المللی هوانوردی غیر نظامی ایکائو تسلیم کردند. انجمن به تنهایی شکایتی رسمی علیه رهبران جمهوری اسلامی و فرماندهان سپاه پاسداران انقلاب اسلامی به دیوان بین المللی کیفری ICC در لاهه تسلیم کرده است. اینها گام‌های بزرگی هستند و ما از تمام تلاش‌هایی که تا امروز شده سپاسگزاریم. می‌دانیم این مسیر سخت و طولانی است، اما برای طی کردنش آماده ایم. همچنین قرار دادن سپاه پاسداران انقلاب اسلامی در لیست گروه‌های تروریستی را اقدامی مؤثر و قابل تقدیر می‌دانیم. اما همچنان خواسته مهمی وجود دارد. بعد از 5 سال هیچ تحقیق مستقل جنایی در مورد پرواز PS 752 انجام نشده است. متاسفانه پلیس فدرال کانادا RCMP همچنان از انجام تحقیقات جنایی خودداری می‌کند. در فارسی ضرب المثلی وجود دارد با این مضمون که وای بر خونی که یک شب از آن بگذرد. در انگلیسی میگویند تأخیر در عدالت بی‌عدالتی است. عدم انجام تحقیقات مستقل توسط پلیس فدرال شکستی برای عدالت است. ما به دنبال صدور حکم بازداشت برای تمامی عاملین و آمرین این جنایت هستیم، از اپراتور دستگاه تورنوان تا علی خامنه‌ای، رهبر آن حکومت جنایتکار. امشب از دولت و همه مقامات تاثیرگذار حاضر درخواست می‌کنیم که با اقدامات قاطع خود نقطه پایانی به این کم توجهی بگذارند. ضمن حمایت از پرونده ما در دیوان کیفری بین المللی با استناد به بند 3 ماده 13 کنوانسیون اساسنامه روم به آن کنوانسیون صلاحیت رسیدگی موردی بدهید. برای پاسخگویی در همه جبهه‌ها تلاش کنید. تلاش برای حقیقت و عدالت صرفاً ناظر به پاسخگویی در قبال فجایع گذشته نیست، بلکه درباره حفاظت از آینده است. درباره اطمینان از اینکه هیچ خانواده دیگری درد ما را تجربه نکند و هیچ زندگی دیگری بیرحمانه دزدیده نشود. همانطور که امشب در اینجا گرد هم آمده ایم، بگذارید 177 زندگی از دست رفته را به یاد بیاوریم. بگذارید خاطره آنها را نه تنها با کلماتمان بلکه با اقداماتمان گرامی بداریم. از شما برای ایستادن کنار ما، حمایت از مأموریت ما و همراهی در این مسیر به سوی حقیقت، یادآوری و عدالت صمیمانه سپاسگزاریم. ما آزادی و عدالت را برای همه می‌خواهیم و آرزو می‌کنیم روزی در ایران عدالت به نحوی که شایسته آن هستیم جاری شود. تا آن روز قاتلین عزیزانمان را نه فراموش می‌کنیم و نه می‌بخشیم.
Thank you, Albors. I now invite to the stage the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada.
I won't say it is a pleasure to join with you again, but it is the deepest honor to be here. Thank you for including me in these commemorations, this moment of grief and search for justice, as you have welcomed me and your families and your community over these terrible past 5 years. I want to thank Pega, High Commissioner Goodale, Mayor West, Yulia Kovalev, the ambassador from Ukraine, and all my fellow MPs and dignitaries who are gathered here today to remember and to commit ourselves once again to not letting your loved ones be forgotten, not letting the world move on without acknowledging, remembering, and striving to do justice by and for your lost loved ones. 5 years since that tragedy. 5 years fighting for justice, for truth. The path to justice is long. We have to keep working with our partners internationally and international institutions to hold the Iranian regimes accountable. We have to do that for many reasons, but top of my mind is, first of all, because justice is necessary to bring at least some semblance of closure. When you know that the perpetrators of this horrific act still walk free, are still free to oppress and murder their own citizens, to have a terrible impact around the world, you must and you will continue to strive for that. And it's also responsible because what you as families have gone through, what you as a community has gone through, what us as a nation, having lost so many of our beloved citizens, no one should ever have to go through again. As Pega reminded us, there are still terrible, terrible commercial airline incidents, as we saw recently. We need to continue to use all of our efforts to make the world safer, to make the skies safer. It's one of the many reasons why the work of the Association of Families of Flight PS752 victims is so important. The downing of the Azerbaijan Airlines flight shows that there's still so much work to be done to protect innocents from unscrupulous, murderous governments. Vos efforts, votre travail est crucial, pas seulement pour que justice soit rendue, mais aussi pour assurer la sécurité d'innombrables voyageurs et innocents qui prennent l'avion à chaque jour. Votre travail, au nom de vos êtres chers, a un impact sur des milliers, des millions de gens à tous les jours. International legal proceedings and procedures, as we all know, are slow, but Canada continues to take action. In 2022, we designated the Iranian regime as one engaged in terrorism, which made thousands of senior Iranian officials permanently and forever inadmissible to Canada. We imposed 19 rounds of sanctions on the Iranian regime. We listed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity, making it a crime in Canada to contribute in any way to its actions, and we continue to push on all other G7 and other nations to recognize the IRGC for what it is. The Iranian regime continues to fail to meet any of its international obligations. So we will continue to work with international partners around the globe to make aviation safer. We're leading on the Safer Skies initiative, which brings together governments, international organizations, and the aviation industry. We're working with the International Civil Aviation Organization to make investigations more rigorous and transparent. It seems so obvious, but no country responsible for shooting down an aircraft should be also responsible for the investigation into how that aircraft crashed. Your advocacy is crucial on these issues, but also beyond. Thank you for speaking up against the Islamic Republic's blatant disregard for human rights, especially women's rights. As the world stepped up over the past years after the horrific killing of Mahsa Amini, it was so many of you, the families of Flight PS 752, who were there at the forefront, organizing, catalyzing, and leading that extraordinary movement of Zan, Zendegi, Azadi that is so, so important, not just to Iranian women, not just to all Iranians, but to everyone around the world. Thank you for all your leadership in this. As I have every year, for the past 5 years, I connected this morning with a number of family members of Flight PS 752 victims. We had true and difficult conversations, a lot of emotion, a lot of grief, obviously, but also a lot of resolve and determination to continue to push in every possible way, including continuing to push on this government, as you must, to make sure that we do everything we possibly can, from international organizations to lawsuits to sanctions to international court cases to memorials and scholarships, to so many different ways that we need to make sure that no one ever forgets your loved ones. No one ever forgets what the Iranian regime did on that horrific morning 5 years ago. I know you've all been through a lot. And I know that some of you at least were hoping that 5 years might be a moment in which it begins to hurt a little less to have lost your loved ones. And you're discovering today that 5 years is just a number. And the love and the grief that you feel is every bit as real today as it was 5 years ago on that horrific day you found out of this terrible, terrible tragedy. I wish I could tell you it does get better. I was reflecting on this over Christmas as for the first time I brought my kids out to the town where my little brother lived and worked before he was taken in a very difficult accident. I can tell you, I've now lived more years on this earth without my little brother than I have with. Over 25 years he's been gone. And the pain is still as present and as much a part of me as it was on that morning I woke up to the worst phone call of my life. But I can tell you that the grief becomes a part of you. It becomes something that is not just a difficulty you live with, it becomes a driving force in your life as well. To remember, to make sure others remember, to look for some good, something positive to come from a horrible, horrible event, to find moments of peace and of joy and of laughter in remembering, but mostly to commit yourself every day to doing right by them, to be carrying them, their drive, their hopes, their dreams, their lives in yours as well. And it's unbelievably difficult. But I can tell you what you have done here over these past 5 years and into the future is extraordinary to behold. And it's not enough, and there is so much more to do, and I am the first to recognize that and to continue with you. But you should know how much you have already done in the names of your loved ones and how much you will be able to continue to do over the coming years. As you all know, this will be my last time attending this event as your Prime Minister, but I have to tell you, it has been the deepest of honors to be able to be with you, to stand with you, to cry with you, and to accompany you in this fight against a terrible, murderous regime, and to tell you once again that you are not alone, that all of Canada stands with you in your grief and in your hope for justice and your drive to make the world a better, safer place for everyone. I know most of you just celebrated Yalda a few weeks ago. I was myself out in Vancouver celebrating with the community a number of weeks ago. And it's a moment in which you pull together to ensure that life and light triumph over darkness and death. And that moment of celebration and that ability to continue to celebrate and to remember what truly matters in family and in truth and in justice is one that inspires me and will continue to inspire me as I continue to grieve alongside all of you for many, many more years to come, regardless of what role I may or may not have. Thank you, my dear friends, for being part of this with me. Thank you for letting me come. Yes.
پنج سال یادآوری. در روزهای بسیاری از سال پای این عکس‌ها شمعی روشن می‌کنم. در روزهای بسیاری از سال عکس کوچکی را بر سینه‌ام می‌آویزم، به خیابان می‌روم و در برابر نگاه کنجکاو دیگران می‌گویم او پسرم بود، او دخترم بود، او نوه‌ام بود، او عروسم بود، او همسرم بود. میگویم 18 دی ماه 98 را به یاد میآورید؟ آن هواپیما، آن موشک‌ها، برخی به یاد میآورند و برای بسیاری خاطره‌ای بسیار دور است. در بازار مکاره دنیا هر روز گوله‌باری عکس و خاطره را بر دوش میگیرم و به خیابان میروم. کنار تمام برو بیاها و شلوغی‌ها در سکوت در گوشه‌ای می‌نشینم و منتظر می‌مانم. آدم‌ها می‌آیند و می‌روند. گاهی یکی به سراغ من می‌آید. آن عکس را نشانش می‌دهم و می‌گویم او پسرم بود، او دخترم بود، او خواهرم بود، او برادرم بود. آدمیزاد مغلوب فراموشی است. آدمیزاد با رخدادهای تازه و فجایعی که هر روز رخ می‌دهد به نام قربانیان تازه نیز عادت نمی‌کند. آدمیزاد فراموش می‌کند و دوباره شلیک به پسرم، به دخترم، به نوه‌ام، به عروسم، به همسرم، به مادرم، به پدرم. کسب و کار من یادآوری است. اینجا در وسط این 4 راه شلوغ با عکسی بر سینه‌ام و شمعی در دستانم می ایستم و به شما می گویم بیرحمی بشر بی انتهاست. به شما میگویم بر روی این زمین کسانی هستند که به هواپیمای مسافربری شلیک میکنند. به شما میگویم من خاطره دور شما هستم. من بازمانده‌ای هستم از خیل بازماندگان. فراموش نکنید. 5 سال است که میگویم فراموش نکنید. پسرم را، دخترم را، نوه‌ام را، همسرم را، خواهرم را، برادرم را، مادرم را، پدرم را.
Thank you, Sadaf Amini, for your improvisational accompaniment to remember the victims. The Honourable Melanie Joly, Canadian Minister of Foreign Affairs, who was not able to join us today, has kindly sent us a video message that we will now watch together.
Aux familles et aux proches de celles et ceux qui ont perdu la vie il y a 5 ans, en ce jour, Merci de nous permettre d'être avec vous aujourd'hui. I offer my sincerest condolences for your loss. Tasli at miyam. My heart goes out to every single one of you. And I know that your loved ones live on in your hearts and in your memories, and they do so in mine as well. Their memory guides us in our pursuit of truth, of justice, and of accountability. And make no mistake, we're seeking answers and justice for you and your loved ones. We're doing so by taking strong actions that the Iranian regime can simply not ignore. A few weeks I was appointed foreign minister 3 years ago. I met with families affected by the PS 752 tragedy. No matter the pain you felt and continue to feel, you always found the strength to not only fight for your loved ones, but also fight for a better future for all Iranians. I remain inspired by your determination and the relentless work of the PS 752 Family Association, including efforts led by my friends Kurash and Hamid to advance justice. Thank you again for your work. It is your strength that continues to fuel and drive our efforts to hold the Iranian regime accountable. You pushed us. You asked us to take concrete actions. You were right. We listened and we delivered. And I personally promised you that we would take strong actions. And we did just that. Sadly, as we all know, the Iranian regime refuses to take full legal responsibility for this outrage. So, with our partners, we have launched 2 legal cases to seek justice for the victims of Flight PS 752. And we've hired the best lawyers in the world to support us. Last October, we took a major step at the International Court of Justice in filing our memorial. We also brought this matter before ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and the next steps are expected early this year. Canada is leading the way. We're leading the charge to make sure the Iranian regime's effort to delay the case are rightly rejected so we can move to the next stage. And we will be relentless in our efforts to seek accountability and justice. We've promised you, and I've promised you, that we would put maximum pressure on the Iranian regime. And so that's why Canada is also among the loudest voices demanding that the Iranian regime respects the rights of its own people and stop destabilizing the Middle East. We condemn the sham trials, the criminalization of the pursuit of freedom and justice, and the recent hijab law. And last June, working with you, the community, and the family, Canada listed the RGC as a terrorist entity. And to date, we have sanctioned 205 Iranian individuals and 250 entities for their complicity. And you've had names, we will add more. Let's work together. And in September, Canada retroactively designated Iran as a special regime under our immigration law, effective June 23, 2003, the date that Iranian-Canadian photojournalist Zahra Kazemi was arbitrarily detained. And we all know that Ms. Kazemi later died in Iranian custody. This designation means senior officials of the Iranian regime since 2003 are barred from entering Canada forever. We remember Ms. Kazemi. We remember Mahsa Amini. We remember those who were cruelly taken from us 5 years ago. And will continue to condemn and hold the regime accountable for its human rights abuses, and will continue to issue sanctions. We say enough. We say Zan, Zandagi, Azadi. Woman, life, freedom. And we also continue to remember your loved ones as we look to the future. Since 2023, 68 students have been awarded scholarships in the honor of the victims of PS 752. These students are following in the footsteps of those remembered today. I would like to sincerely thank the members of the Family Association for your strength, your determination, and your courage in the face of great pain. It's been the honor of my life working with you. Vous êtes une source d'inspiration pour nous toutes et tous, et le Canada continuera d'être à vos côtés dans ce combat pour la justice et la liberté.
I was hosted this morning by the Ovesi family. They lost their son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter, the 5-year-old Asal Ovesi, aboard PS752. I was told that the beautiful foliage hanging from the staircase, peeking through the entrance, was planted by Asal, the 5-year-old, the night before her flight. It is now a full-grown plant, filling the space in the Ovesi home, representing the love left behind. It is that seed of love that is planted in all of our hearts and those of the community. I'm sorry. And officials who have stood with us in this cause for justice. The Honorable Ralph Goodale is one of those officials who has carried the seed of love in his heart. I now invite the Honorable Ralph Goodale, High Commissioner for Canada in the United Kingdom, to come to the stage.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Bonjour tout le monde. Prime Minister, distinguished guests representing every aspect of government in Canada, as well as the government of Ukraine, and most especially today, members of the families of those precious loved ones whose lives were so tragically and so criminally taken exactly 5 years ago this morning in the dangerous skies over Tehran. It is a privilege to join you in this solemn remembrance. Thank you for inviting me to do so. For most of these past 5 years, I've been stationed in London as Canada's High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, but I have also continued as Special Advisor for Canada's ongoing response to Iran's brutal attack on Ukraine International Airlines Flight number 752, an attack that was indeed wrongful and unlawful, killing 177 innocent people, most of them with direct ties to Canada. Meeting, listening, and learning from the families is an extraordinary experience. They, you, are all very different people from different backgrounds at different stations in life, with different perceptions and priorities, but you are all united by love and by the trauma of having your loved ones ripped away. And you rightly cry out for justice. From the very beginning, Canadians have stood shoulder to shoulder with the families in that cry, sharing your outrage at the corrupt, devious, malevolent regime in Tehran, and united in absolute determination to get transparency about what truly happened on January the 8th, 2020, to extract accountability from the regime responsible, and ultimately
to achieve justice for those who died. As Special Advisor and High Commissioner, I've had a unique vantage point from which to observe and monitor progress. It is a long road to transparency, accountability, and justice. We knew it would be, especially since the perpetrators of this huge crime control the site and all the evidence and the witnesses and the suspects. Indeed, they control the entire investigation into their own wrongdoing. The attitudes of the regime in Tehran are antithetical to ours. They show no regard for human rights, the rule of law, investigative and judicial credibility and independence, or the most basic obligations of civilized international behavior. None of that seems to matter to them. But let me make 3 points about where we are at to date. First, while the international legal procedures available to Canada and our fellow aggrieved countries in Ukraine, Sweden, and the United Kingdom are complex, onerous, and time-consuming, this case is moving forward both at the International Court of Justice and at the International Civil Aviation Organization more proficiently and more quickly than in any other comparable proceeding in the sad history of aviation disasters. Second, beyond timing, we are moving cohesively and comprehensively. The legal representatives of all 4 countries, I'm happy to report, are very much on the same page with each other and with you. I've attended meetings with them and with our external counsel, including Canada's own Payamakavan and others. They are all highly skilled professionals. Together, they bring more than a century of experience and expertise to this file. They are innovative and motivated. Beyond doubt, they will present a compelling case before the highest legal tribunals in the world, demanding justice for your families. Those legal arguments are buttressed by top-notch proactive diplomacy, led by Canada, but ably reinforced by the United Kingdom, Ukraine, and Sweden. Together, our diplomats around the world are ensuring that all relevant capitals are fully and accurately informed about the facts pertaining to Flight PS752 and what is at stake for the world in our cases now before ICAO and the ICJ. Other countries have expressed their gratitude for Canada's leadership, and we in turn are grateful for all of their close collaboration and support. And you will hear directly this afternoon from the Ukrainian Ambassador to Canada. I have also heard from the UK government directly and from my counterpart, the Ambassador of Sweden in the United Kingdom. They have both asked me to extend their deepest condolences to all family members gathered here today and their staunchest resolve and solidarity in the ongoing legal and diplomatic work to ensure the ultimate vindication for the families. Canada, Ukraine, Sweden, and the United Kingdom stand unequivocally together with you. And that brings me to my third and final observation, and that is the central importance of the work the families have done from the very outset and continue to do today to honor your loved ones. You have been thoughtful and articulate. You have been decent and dignified. You have been persistent and unrelenting. And that is what drives everything forward. That is what mobilizes the lawyers and the diplomats and the public servants and the international institutions and the political leadership of 4 great countries. It is you, the families. So please never stop. You have captured public attention worldwide. You have caused the establishment of a national day for the remembrance of the victims of air disasters. You have inspired a memorial scholarship program. You have accelerated Transport Canada's Safer Skies initiative to better protect civil aviation from the criminal negligence of rogue states and to demand credible, independent investigations, especially when a culprit's country's military is implicated. You have provided invaluable information, insight, and perspective that has strengthened Canada's legal analysis and strategy. You have achieved the expansion of sanctions and other special measures, as well as the listing of the IRGC under the Criminal Code of Canada. You have made the point that monetary compensation is not your primary goal. Getting the truth and holding the culprits to account, that is what truly matters. And your clear-eyed, undistracted, unfailing focus has ensured that the victims of this tragedy, the victims of this travesty, will indeed have their day in court. Accountability will come with the whole world watching. It is an honor to be associated with you. Thank you very much.
Immediately after the plane was downed southwest of Tehran, security forces rushed to the area. 3 hours later, bulldozers leveled the crash site to the ground. Passengers' belongings were looted. Military personnel took dolls, books, suitcases, wedding gifts, and ID cards. Passengers' and crew members' phones and laptops were seized or destroyed. They even removed wedding rings from the fingers of the deceased and stole them. During those same hours, IRGC commanders were boasting about their victory at Ain al-Assad, though that attack had caused no serious damage or casualties. The official state television of the Islamic Republic announced that the black boxes had been found in good, reviewable condition and that their contents would be examined promptly. The black box review stretched over 8 months. In similar disasters such as Lockerbie, MH17, and even Air India's crash over the ocean 39 years ago, black boxes were found and analyzed within days to weeks, despite the difficulties. The Islamic Republic, however, used various pretexts, including claims of damage, the COVID-19 pandemic, and assertions that they would not hand over the boxes to another country, to hold the black boxes hostage for 8 months. When they were finally sent to France, officials took commemorative photos with them. The precise results of the black box analysis were never released. 16 minutes of pilot conversations remain in the possession of the Islamic Republic, and France and other affected countries have not released any information. According to reports, security footage from the airport at the time of boarding was destroyed by the IRGC. Footage from inside the Tor M1 missile system was never released. Compare this to the downing of Iran Air Flight 655 in 1988, when everyone saw the heartbreaking, criminal scene of the missiles being fired from the USS Vincennes. Witnesses have either been intimidated or silenced. No evidence revealing part of the truth has been made public to this day. We are in pursuit of the truth, and until justice is served, we will neither forget nor forgive those who ordered and carried out this crime.
That Santur performance is for sure very hard to follow. It just hits too deep. Thank you, Sadaf Amini, for your performance again. I now invite Azadeh Heydaripur and Arezu Fakur, accompanied by other mothers of Flight PS752, to the stage. They will be delivering the same speech in both English and Farsi.
We, the mothers of Flight PS752, stand in defiance of forgetting. Every day, we repeat to ourselves that on January 8, 2020, missiles were fired. Every day, we remind ourselves that a piece of our heart was on that plane. 5 years have passed. Our garment turned black. Our hair turned white, but we have not forgotten. At the crossroad of season, through the passing years, with the roar of every airplane that crosses the skies, we stand with framed photograph in our hand, in defiance of forgetting. Human beings are prone to forgetfulness, but if we forget, they will commit crimes again. If we forget, they will take another innocent life. If we forget, truth will be forgotten, and justice will remain nothing more than a hollow word to use to mask the faces of dictators. If we forget, they will fire again at youth, at beauty, at women, at life, at freedom. We defy forgetting, and our fight against forgetting is internal. We, the mothers of Flight PS752 victims, stand against forgiveness, for we are denied the possibility of justice. We have been denied our day in a court of justice. What we have seen so far from the perpetrators and those who ordered this crime has been nothing but lies and the shroud of deceit cast over the truth. Black is the color of their justice. White is the color of ours. There is no forgiveness. We mourn the beautiful children of Iran, and until justice is achieved for all those who were willfully murdered, we will not speak of forgiveness. In our dream, there will come a day when the criminals sit in the defendant's seats of a courtroom, and we will bear witnesses to justice being served. In our dreams, there will come a day when every fragment of the truth about what happened is revealed. In our dream, the murderers will be punished. Only then, the wounds of our people will begin to heal. Until that day, we will never forget, nor shall we ever forgive.
ما مادران پرواز PS 752 روبروی فراموشی ایستاده ایم. هر روز با خود تکرار می کنیم. در 8 ژانویه 2020 موشک‌ها شلیک شدند. هر روز با خود تکرار می کنیم پاره تنمان در آن هواپیما بود. 5 سال گذشت. جامه‌ها سیاه شدند و موها سپید. اما ما فراموش نکردیم. در 4 راه فصول، در گذر سالیان، در صدای غرش هر هواپیمایی که از آسمان می‌گذرد، ما با تصویر قاب گرفته در دستانمان روبروی فراموشی ایستاده ایم. انسان مبتلا به فراموشی است، اما اگر فراموش کنیم، آنها دوباره جنایت می‌کنند. اگر فراموش کنیم، آنها دوباره جان بیگناهی را می‌ستانند. اگر فراموش کنیم، حقیقت نیز فراموش می‌شود و عدالت جز کلمه‌ای دهان پر کن برای بزک کردن چهره دیکتاتورها نخواهد بود. اگر فراموش کنیم، آنها به جوانی، به زیبایی، به زن، به زندگی، به آزادی دوباره شلیک می‌کنند. ما روبروی فراموشی ایستاده ایم و مبارزه ما با فراموشی ابدی است. ما مادران پرواز PS 752 روبروی بخشش ایستاده ایم. برای ما امکان عدالتی نبوده است. برای ما روز دادگاهی مقدر نبوده است. آنچه تا امروز از عاملین و آمرین جنایت دیده ایم دروغ بوده است و خاک پاشیدن بر حقیقت. سیاه رنگ عدالت آنهاست و سپید رنگ عدالت ما. بخششی در کار نیست. ما به سوی فرزندان زیبای ایران نشسته ایم و تا امکان عدالت برای تمام کسانی که به ظلم کشته شدند فراهم نشود، از بخشش سخن نخواهیم گفت. در رویای ما روزی جنایتکاران بر صندلی متهمین دادگاه می نشینند و ما ناظران اجرای عدالت خواهیم بود. در رویای ما روزی تمام حقیقت، ذره ذره آنچه رخ داده است آشکار خواهد شد. در رویای ما قاتلین مجازات می شوند و زخمهای مردمان ما التیام می یابد. تا آن روز نه فراموش می کنیم و نه می بخشیم. تا آن روز نه فراموش می کنیم و می بخشیم.
با دست توهی با آن همه طوفان بنیان کن در افتادی. تو را کوچیدن از این خاک دلبر کندن از جان است. تو را این ابر ظلمت گستر بی رحم بی باران، تو را از نیمه ره برگشتن یاران، تو را تصویر غمخواران، تو را هنگامه شوم شغالان، بانگ بی تعطیل زاغان در سطوحان. تو با پیشانی پاک نجیب خویش که از آن سوی گندمزار طلوع با شکوهش خوشتر از 100 تاج خورشید است. چشمان غمباری که روزی چشمه جوشان شادی بود و اینک حسرت و افسوس بر آن سایه افکنده است، خواهی رفت و اشک من تو را به درود خواهد گفت.
بهمون نگفته بودن چشم فرداها ندوزیم، به گناهی که نداریم یه روزی باید بسوزیم. نمیدونستیم زمونه
3 دقیقه از پرواز گذشت. احتمالاً هنوز مسافران جاگیر نشده اند. یک باره ارتباط هواپیما با برج مراقبت قطع می شود. این نتیجه برخورد اولین موشک سپاه است. 28 ثانیه بعد موشک دوم سپاه شلیک می شود.
نابودتون کنه.
حالا دیگر هواپیما مانند یک گلوله آتش گرفته و به زمین اصابت می کند. 9 خدمه، 70 مرد، 81 زن، 15 بچه و یک نوزاد جان خود را از دست می دهند.
که به قلب بشر شب تار تا پر پر شوند به دستور نابکار. سقوط شرف ز جور روزگار، شرار ستم به قصد جان یار.
و ما گفتیم نگران نباشید فقط بروید و میگفتند ما نگران شماها هستید، ولی نمیدانستیم همه در بیت جمع هستند و تصمیم سرنگونی گرفته شده است. خواب و بیدار بودیم که حدود ساعت 7:30 موبایلم نابهنگام به صدا در آمد. با نگران استرس گوشی را جواب دادم و دخترم نواز با فریاد میپرسید شماره پرواز بچه ها چیه؟ مادر گفت PS 752.
نمانده در دلم دیگر تمام دوری، چه سود از این سکوت و از این صبوری. ای طلوع آرزوی خفته در پا، بخوان مرا تو ای امید رفته از یاد.
ما هر سال در این مکان این بار دنبال بدنهای پاره شده زیر چرخهای بولدوزرهای سپاه در شاهدشهر در همین مکان به دنبال فرشتگان جان سوخته و مدفون در این خاک اشک می‌ریزیم و فریاد می‌زنیم که نه می‌بخشیم و نه فراموش می‌کنیم.
این جنایت یک حادثه نبود، یک جنایت سیستماتیک بود که به دست انسان‌هایی رقم خورد که باید حافظ جان مردم باشند، نه تهدید کننده آن. ما خانواده‌های قربانیان در این 5 سال رنج‌های بی‌پایانی را تحمل کردیم، اما ایستادیم. صدای این عزیزان را که دیگر در میان ما نیستند به گوش جهانیان خواهیم رساند. برای ما این یک وظیفه است. ما باید یاد آنها را زنده نگه داریم، برای حقیقت بجنگیم و اطمینان حاصل کنیم که دیگر هیچ مادری، هیچ پدری، هیچ خواهر و برادری و هیچ فرزندی چنین فقدانی را تجربه نکند.
نگاه ما به بهت روزگار، کبوتران عشق به نور ره سپار.
ای شما که پروازتان را به اجبار به خاک سپردن، صدایتان هنوز در گوش آسمان ها می پیچد. هر ستاره‌ای در شب‌های تاریک نام شما را زمزمه می کند. 1 سال دیگر گذشت، هنوز عدالت را برایتان فریاد می زنیم. شما جاودانه شدین در میان عشق‌هایی که ناتمام ماند، در میان سکوتی که صدای شما را فریاد میزنند. به یادتان زنده ایم و برایتان می جنگیم، نه می بخشیم نه فراموش می کنیم.
بزرکین وین کویر خشک بارور خواهد شد از گلهای نفرین. هنگامی که خون از خشم سرکش در تنور قلبها میگیرد آتش، برق سرنیزه چه ناچیز است. میخروشد خشم در شیپور، میکوبد غضب در طبل، هر طرف سر میکشد عصیان. بشنو ای جلاد و مپوشان چهره با دستان خون آلود. میشناسندت به 100 نقش و نشان مردم.
چشم‌ها و چشمه‌ها خشکه، روشنی ها محو در تاریکی دلتنگ، همچنان که نام ها در ننگ، همچنان که نام ها در ننگ.
از روز اول فریاد زدیم عدالت رو زیر پای سیاستتون ذکر نکنید. این جمع دادخواه هستند، کوتاه بیا نیستند. اگر عدالت رو اجرا نکنید، حقیقت رو عیان نکنید، تا روزی که نفس میکشند پا پس نمیکشند. بیدادگاه شما رسیدگی نکرد. هر محکمه ای رو که بدانیم میرویم، از این خاکریز به اون خاکریز میدویم برای دادخواهی عزیزانمان. روزی دست بر میداریم که زیر خاک دفنمون بکنید، اون موقع هم بچه های ما میدوند. یعنی این پرچم به زمین نخواهد افتاد.
دشوار زندگی هرگز ملال ما، دشوار زندگی هرگز ملال ما، بی رزم مشترک آزاد نمیشیم.
دولت ایران تعهدات خود بر اساس کنوانسیون مونترال را نقض کرده است و غیر قانونی و عمدن هواپیما را ثابت کرده است. ایران به جای انجام تحقیقات و تعقیب کیفری بی‌طرفانه، شفاف و عادلانه مطابق به قوانین بین‌المللی، در عوض مدارک را پنهان یا از بین برد. همه مردم اینجا می‌دانند. به جای جستجوی عدالت یک محاکمه ساختگی و غیر شفاف انجام داد. ایران زمانی اعتراف کرد که سایت سقوط قبلا با بولدوزر تخریب، شواهد محو، اقلام از کیفات سرقت، اساسیه مسافرین و لاشه هواپیما و حتی خاک محل با کامیون و بیلها به مکان دیگری منتقل شد.
به من و به ما گفته می شود که چرا علیرغم گذشته 5 سال نه تنها آرام نشده اید، بلکه خشمگین‌تر از ایام گذشته هستید. بر هر یک از ما رنجی به اندازه 5 قرن گذشته، چهره‌ها و قامت ما در هم شکسته. جنایتکارانی که همه ابزار قدرت را در اختیار دارند، نه تنها کمترین تعهدی نسبت به اجرای عدالت ندارند، بلکه دائما در لوای اختیارات قانونی تلاشی خستگی ناپذیر برای پایمال نمودن حقوق انسانها دارند.
خوابند وکیلان و خرابند وزیران، بردند به سرقت همه سیم و زر ایران. ما را نگذارند به یک خانه ویران. چه کج رفتاری چرخ، چه بد کرداری چرخ، سر کین داری چرخ. از خون جوانان وطن لاله دمیده، از ماتم سر به قدشان وطن لاله دمیده، از ماتم سر
The video footage you just watched, we received just this morning. It's from the memorial event that continues to be held by the courageous families of victims in Iran, despite very dangerous security measures imposed on them by the Iranian regime and all the threats that they have to endure. Thanks for them for continuing this way every year. I now invite to the stage Melissa Landsman, Member of Parliament for Thornhill and Deputy Leader of Conservative Party of Canada.
Thank you. It is an honor for me and Anna to stand with you again this year and every year going forward for as long as it takes to truly get justice. And we're here on behalf of Pierre Poilievre and the team to mark 5 years since the cold-blooded murders and the downing of Flight PS 752. Devastation that murdered 85 of our own Canadians amongst the 176 innocent souls, shattering the lives of families and of our community right here in Richmond Hill and beyond. And although years have passed, the grief remains, for we remember the lives so callously taken that day at the hands of the murderous regime. And although it's been half a decade since that morning, we still don't have answers, accountability, or justice for what happened. And we have still had no independent investigation. We have had no meaningful sanctions, almost no consequences for those who are part of this brutal dictatorship already living in our midst, as the regime continues to brutalize its own citizens while threatening free and independent nations, arming their proxies and continuing to take the lives of innocent civilians. And I know that every time the families and the associations see that it re-victimizes the trauma that you have faced all of these years. They are allowed to carry out their terrorist activities here in Canada and even here in our community, using our country as a safe haven, a recruitment base, and a place to harass and intimidate each and every one of the victims. The money laundering and the slap in the face that are the children of senior regime operatives going to school in this country's best universities with complete impunity. That must stop, and you are a big reason why that will stop. This is, of course, on top of being allowed to stay in power in Iran, subjugating an entire freedom-seeking movement led by the brave young women who inspire hope and of a freedom-loving world, cheering them on. We've seen that for years now. They subjugate them to a life of second-class citizenry, infringing on the fundamental rights and freedoms and threatening peace and democracy in the Middle East and, frankly, all over the world. In the past 5 years, I have had the honor of meeting many of the Flight 752 families, even luckier to call some of them true friends, many whom are here today, alongside many in this community who want justice from the victims and who ultimately want to see a free Iran. Your advocacy and your determination are inspiring, and I am convinced that it will happen in our lifetime. But we can't ignore the fact that demands have been ignored by people who have the ability to do something about it. We have many allies when it's easy to give a speech or record a video or give platitudes, but when the time comes to act, we hear excuses. And while we have long proposed laws to outright ban the IRGC and actually enforce that ban, secure our borders, levy more sanctions, and secure our communities here, I think the present government has refused to act, and they have allowed them to flourish here in Canada and in our community. And I must say that the victims of Flight 752 deserve better than this. The families, the association deserve better than this. Our country deserves better than this, and you deserve better than this. And today, the Conservatives, Anna and I, on behalf of Pierre, reconfirm our commitment to defund and dismantle the Iranian regime's terrorist network. We will expose and expel those working for foreign dictatorships and make our country safe for all Canadians. Because of you, because of this association, because of the work that you do day in and day out, there is a movement building in this country, a movement of law and order, peace and security, freedom and justice, and you are at the forefront of that movement. And by remaining united and standing together, we will not only honor the memories of the victims of Flight 752, but also achieve meaningful, better change for Canada. And as long as we continue to do this, as long as we never give up the fight, we will never forget each and every one of those victims, unjustly and criminally murdered. As you observe this solemn anniversary, we stand with you, and we will always fight for you, for the memories of all of the lost brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers, aunts and uncles, friends, and the hardest of all, as we saw from the mothers on stage, the sons and daughters, now and as Canada's next government. Thank you.
پنج سال دلتنگی. در خیابان دختر بچه‌ای را می‌بینی که روی جدول قدم می‌زند. مردی بلند بالا با ریشی کوتاه را می‌بینی که در کوچه‌ای می‌پیچد. پدر و مادری جوان را می‌بینی که بر کالسکه‌ای خم شده‌اند. با خودت می‌گویی اوست، خود اوست. به طرفشان می‌روی. آرام و با فاصله نگاهشان می‌کنی. خود اوست، هموست. بر می‌گردند. لبخندی بر لب دارند. شکل لبخند شبیه آن چیزی نیست که به یاد می‌آوری. اسباب صورت شبیه آن صورتی نیست که در دست گرفته‌ای و بوسیده‌ای. در خانه باد می‌آید. تند بادهای 5 ساله هر روز از این خانه می‌گذرند و انگاری برفی کهنه و دیرسال بر آن نشسته است. روی عکس او که بر دیوار آویزان است برف نشسته است. روی کتابی که روزهای آخر می‌خواند برف نشسته است. روی ستاری که بر دست می‌گرفت و می‌نواخت. روی لباسهای کوچکش، روی یونیفرم مدرسه‌اش، روی عروسکی که اسمی داشت و در آغوش می‌گرفت. با خود می‌گویی اگر بود چه شکلی بود؟ چگونه می‌خندید؟ چه آرزوهایی داشت؟ چه قصه های روزانه‌ای را برای من تعریف می‌کرد؟ ای کاش دلتنگی نام کوچکی می‌داشت که آن را به نام می‌خواندی. ای کاش دلتنگی لبی برای خندیدن بود، قصه‌ای برای شنیدن بود، کتابی برای خواندن بود و شانه‌ای برای گریستن. همه آنها که با ترکش‌های موشک سپاه مواجه شدند عاشق بودند و کسانی آنها را عاشقانه دوست می‌داشتند. آن عشق روی زمین راه گرفت و ادامه یافت. در درخت‌هایی که کاشته شد، در عکس‌هایی که برافراشته شد، در شمع‌هایی که افروخته شد، در آسمانی که بارید، در فریادی که گوش آسمان را کر کرد و در این دلتنگی بزرگ که با هیچ برف باریدنی پر نمی‌شود.
Thank you, Sadaf. I now invite to the stage Her Excellency Yulia Kovalev, Ukrainian Ambassador to Canada.
Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Deputy Leader of Opposition, members of the Parliament, members of the families, dear guests. On this day 5 years ago, Ukraine, Canada, and all of the world was shocked by the tragedy that happened with the Ukrainian International Airlines flight PS752. Dear members of the Association of the Families, thank you for inviting me 3 years in a row to be here with you to share this painful moment. When we first met, Korosh, when I arrived to Canada after the start of Russian full-scale invasion, I assured you that Ukraine, despite of the brutal and unprovoked Russian aggression, will continue to fight for justice for all of the victims of the flight PS752. And it's because for us, as never before in our modern history, the word justice, it's much more than just a word. We fight for justice for the brutal Russian invasion. We fight for justice for the memory of victims of PS752. We fight and continue to fight for justice for the victims of MH17. And it is important because without the justice, the world will turn upside down. And the core value which we share and believe in, the value of human lives, is the utmost idea why we put so many efforts for the justice. And 3 years later, today, as it was said, we issued together with Canada, with United Kingdom, with Sweden, the case in ICAO Council, and also in October 16, 2024, our coordination group of the countries filed the joint memorandum to International Court of Justice. Yes, indeed, this fight for justice and the way to justice, it's not as quick as we would like to be. But from Ukrainian side, we assure you, despite of all the challenges we're living through now, we continue to pursue the fight for justice. And I would like to thank you, the Government of Canada, for helping us on this file and on this path. Because today, as we are talking, people continue to die in Ukraine because of Russian missiles, Iranian drones, North Korean troops on the ground who are fighting with our soldiers. As I was on my way to the solemn commemoration, another 13 Ukrainian civilians lost their life by a Russian bombardment of Zaporizhia city. And almost every night, I'm calling myself, my parents, to check whether they are all right because of Iranian drones flying over the territory of my country now almost every day. So for us, we're so grateful to Canada for the steadfast support in our fight against brutal dictatorship Russian regime, and also by taking the lead and to proceed the case of PS752. We continue to work together and will fight for justice so that the memory of each and every victim of this tragedy will be remembered, and the justice will be brought to Iran and Iranian regime. Thank you.
"5 years after the January 8, 2020 crime, and the formation of the Association of Families of PS 752 victims, the following achievements have been realized through collaboration with affected governments. The Islamic Republic has a few days remaining to challenge the court's jurisdiction. Given its history of causing delays, it's likely they'll submit their objection on the last day, January 16th. We know this process will take several years, but we hope to attend the ICJ hearing on jurisdictional competence for this case in 2025. The Islamic Republic has contested the authority of this body. 4 governments have responded. We hope that in the coming months, the ICAO Council will rule in favor of the 4 affected countries. And if the Islamic Republic appeals, an additional case may be opened at the International Court of Justice. In 2024, Canada officially declared the IRGC a terrorist organization. We hope this measure will restrict this terrorist organization's ability to launder money and prevent its officials from coming to a free country like Canada. To date, some officials of the Islamic Republic have been expelled from the country. We hope this process will accelerate, leading to the expulsion or criminal prosecution of all those in the Islamic Republic who have violated human rights or held positions within this regime. The only overlooked aspect addressing this crime is the initiation of a criminal investigation. To date, there has been no criminal inquiry into the murder of the 177 passengers and crew on this flight. We expect the 4 involved governments to support the open case filed by the Association of Families with the International Criminal Court, and for federal police to finally respond to the families' rightful demand and open a criminal investigation. Despite all these efforts outside of Iran, our ultimate wish is for a fair trial to be held in the Tehran Justice Hall, a day when the Islamic Republic's criminals no longer rule over the beautiful and peace-loving people of Iran, and all those responsible and involved are tried in an impartial court. Until that day, we shall never forget, nor shall we forgive the perpetrators of this tragedy.
I now invite to the stage Kurosh Dustchenas, the association's spokesperson, to please join me.
Good afternoon. On behalf of Association of Families of Flight PS 752 victims, I extend our heartfelt gratitude for your presence today and your steadfast support in our pursuit of justice. As we mark the 5th anniversary of the senseless murder of 176 passengers, crew members, and onboard child by a criminal regime in Iran, we gather to reflect on the grief we share and the love that sustains us. This unimaginable loss is born by the love we have for our departed loved ones. It is this love that fuels our determination to keep their memories alive and hold those responsible accountable. Our pursuit of justice is unwavering, propelled by this enduring love. I would like to begin by acknowledging and thanking the Prime Minister, the esteemed ministers who have been with us and supporting us, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors of Ukraine and Sweden, His Worship, the Mayor of Richmond Hill, Mayor David West, and many dignitaries who have stood with us during these painful years. Over the past 5 years, we have worked tirelessly to pursue justice through nonpartisan collaboration with the Government of Canada. We have achieved critical milestones. In July 2023, our legal case advanced to the International Court of Justice under the Montreal Convention, a pivotal step forward toward truth and accountability. On the 4th anniversary, our case was referred to the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, under the Chicago Convention. Most recently, we saw the designation of Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization in Canada. These achievements, accomplished through close cooperation with the Government of Canada, are significant, yet our work is far from over. The road ahead remains challenging as we seek full accountability and transparency about the circumstances surrounding the dawning of Flight PS752. Our loved ones deserve nothing less than the truth and justice. We continue our collaboration efforts with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and Office of the Prosecutor General of Ukraine in the ongoing criminal investigation. However, despite our relentless advocacy, we have yet to see clear progress toward the formal criminal investigation into this heinous act. We call on authorities to act without further delay. On September 12, 2022, we submitted an application to the International Criminal Court, ICC, yet we still await the full support of Canada and other affected countries to strengthen our case and ensure accountability for this abhorrent crime. The pursuit of justice is never swift, but we must remain vigilant to ensure its momentum does not waver. We owe it to our loved ones to see this through, to ensure that no such a tragedy ever repeats. We thank you for standing with us in this fight. Your presence and commitment inspire us to press forward. Justice is meaningless without truth. We will never forget, nor shall we ever forgive. Thank you. I just wanted to use this moment on a personal note, thank the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and his Minister, Julie, and Honorable High Commissioner, Ralph Goodell, for standing with us from the day one and worked with us. And we expect nothing less than that cooperation from whoever the next government may be. And we appreciate everything you have done. Thank you so much.
بابا من میگم شاید یه نفرم زنده مونده باشه.
Between the shooting down of Flight PS752 and the day of admission, one of the world's largest disinformation campaigns was launched. For 3 days, state television in the Islamic Republic broadcast continuously, interviewing various people to support the theory that nothing unusual had happened to Flight PS 752.
این هواپیما موشکی با اون اصابت نکرده.
While images of missiles, video footage of the strike, and photos of the plane's punctured fuselage were circulating on social media, and while the Ukrainian embassy had removed its statement attributing the crash to a technical malfunction, figures ranging from a retired pilot
به نظر من این یه سانحه میاد و شلیک موشک نباید باشه.
to a government-affiliated film director, to a government-aligned journalist, the head of the Civil Aviation Organization, and individuals now working in U.S. government institutions were all engaged in covering up a crime unprecedented in the world. The misinformation and outright lies about Flight PS 752 continued on social media even after the crime had been acknowledged. One day, the whole truth will come to light. One day, the truth will become our clear boundary with all those who, at the time of this crime, sided with the criminals instead of the victims. We will never forget, nor forgive, those who ordered and committed this crime.
Thank you, Sadaf, for your truly impactful Santur performances today. I now invite to the stage the Honourable Michael Parsa, Minister of Children, Community and Social Services of Ontario.
Good evening, درود بر شما. Thank you very much, Pegaja. Prime Minister, Mr. Goodale, MP Latsman and Roberts, and my colleague MPP Daisy Y, Your Worship, David West, and all members of Council, all the dignitaries, Ambassador Kovalap, Councillor General Nikolenko, my colleagues from all levels of government, community leaders, friends, and most importantly, families. I really wish that we were meeting here today under different circumstances. I know that your pain and the grief of the loss of your families has not been easy, and it has not been easy over time. And although 5 years have passed, I cannot imagine what these years have been like for you and your families. Because time does not ease the warmth of the loved one, their presence, the echoes of their laughters, or their dreams that they carried with them. And that's why it's imperative that we ensure that their memories live on. As the renowned Iranian poet Rumi once said, hardship may dishearten at first, but every hardship passes. All despair is followed by hope, and all darkness is followed by sunshine. For over 4 decades, the Iranian people have suffered under a regime that seeks to silence their voices and suppress their dreams. Yet the spirit of their freedom cannot be contained. Their pursuit of freedom is not just a matter of principle. It's a profound aspiration rooted in their desire for liberty and dignity. We have seen the efforts from the brave women and men who continue to fight for their rights, the youth who risk everything to call for change, and the resilient families of the victims of Flight PS752. In the face of such unimaginable loss, these families have become advocates for justice, voices for accountability, and have become beacons of hope. I want to once again call on my colleagues from all levels of government to continue to be a loud voice for the victims and their loved ones, and by committing to getting the justice and the truth that they seek and deserve. To Mr. Albor Sadeghi, Mr. Dushanas, Dr. Ismailian, my friend Babak Payami, the entire families of victims PS752, the volunteers, and everyone who has dedicated their efforts to seeking justice, I want to express my deepest sympathies. But I also want to offer my profound gratitude for your resolve and for your commitment for justice. I thank you for your devotion to seeking justice for every family affected by this tragedy. I also want to thank Mayor David West for your dedication and for supporting the families through the placement of a permanent memorial in our city to honor the victims, which you will hear from soon. And as I heard earlier, I want to thank also the Prime Minister, who has already echoed his support for this initiative, and I thank him for that. To the people of Ukraine and families who lost loved ones, this loss is a painful reminder of the risks faced by your citizens in global conflicts. And to the friends and families of the crew, we offer our deepest sympathies. To the courageous Iranian men and women who are fighting for a democratic future in Iran, we salute you. Your fortitude and bravery is inspirational. But I want you to know that as you continue to fight for justice, we stand with you. And we want you to know that we stand with you every step of the way. Because history teaches us that when we stand together in pursuit of justice, freedom is inevitable. But friends, let me be clear. The fight for a free and democratic Iran will only be achieved when this evil terrorist regime ceases to exist. And that time, thank you. Champion of human rights, Dr. Reza Maridi, thank you. And that time, my friends, is now. We must support the Iranian people in their pursuit of justice and freedom. And I join the families in echoing, let us never forget, and let us never forgive them. Thank you so much very much.
From January 2024 to January 2025, the Islamic Republic began the year 2024 with the execution of Muhammad Qobadlu, a protester from the Women Life Freedom movement. While his family and relatives were behind the walls of the Ghazal Hisar prison, the Islamic Republic executed him and he was buried under tight security measures. After Muhammad, 4 young men from Iranian Kurdistan were executed, and the executions continued. Their number has steadily increased up to this day. In Canada, the Commission on Foreign Interference began its work while the name of the Islamic Republic is not among the countries under investigation. Despite the insistence of activists and the Iranian Canadian community, the name of the Islamic Republic was not added to India, China, and Russia, even though the Iranian Canadian community believes the Islamic Republic's interference in this country is serious and must be thoroughly investigated. So far, in an action welcomed by the Iranian community in Canada, 16 officials of the Islamic Republic have been expelled from this country or are on the verge of expulsion, while not all their names have been revealed. In the spring of 2024, the Islamic regime issued a death sentence for Toumaj Salehi, which brought thousands of people out in protest to the streets of Toronto, a sentence that was cancelled a few months later. Around the same time, the Islamic Republic carried out a military attack on Israel for the first time. Shortly afterward, the president of this government, Ebrahim Raisi, who was among the judges of the 1988 prison massacre, was killed in a suspicious incident, and the Islamic Republic's system decided in a sham election in which the reformists were the main players to appoint Masoud Pezeshkian to the presidency, a ceremonial position that effectively cannot take any fundamental actions without the permission of the leader of this government. During the election days, Masoud Pezeshkian went to the graves of victims of downing of flight PS752 in several parts of Iran, which was met with widespread protest by the families. The listing of the IRGC as a terrorist organization in Canada in June was a turning point in the events of the past year. Almost simultaneously, terrorists and allies of the Islamic Republic in the region were killed one by Israel in various locations around the world. Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, Hassan Nasrallah in Lebanon, members of the Hezbollah terrorist group, Abbas Nilfurushan and others were among them. Inside the country, the Islamic Republic was issuing death sentences for labor, ethnic, and protest activists such as Sharifeh Mohammadi, Varisha Moradi, Pakhshan Azizi, the youth of Ekbatan, and many others, sending Reza Rasai and many others to the gallows, and was again preparing abroad for an attack on Israel. This broad attack burned millions of dollars of the Iranian people's assets in a feudal war. The outcome of this war so far has been the hanging of the FATS medal on the chest of Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the IRGC airspace commander, who is among the primary suspects in downing a flight PS752. Jamshid Sharmat, the kidnapped German-Iranian prisoner, is among the newest victims of executions in the Islamic Republic, whose killing led to the closure of this government's consulates in Germany. Germany, prior to that, had closed some mosques and religious centers affiliated with the Islamic Republic. Ahu Daryai, a female university student in Tehran, in a protest act against compulsory hijab, rebelled in such a way that she was arrested a few minutes later, and there is still no information on her exact fate. Kianush Sanjari is another name that remains in the Iranians' memory in 2024. Kianush Sanjari, a well-known journalist and political prisoner, threw himself from a building in central Tehran in protest at the imprisonment of Tumaj Salehi, Nasrin Shahkarami, Fatemeh Sepehri, and Arsham Rezai. Iranians' anger flared up again, and Hossein Ronaqi, another well-known activist in protest at the crackdowns and in solidarity with Kianush Sanjari, sewed his lips shut and held sit-ins in various parts of Tehran. On December 8, 2024, Iranians were confronted with another piece of news that further strengthened their hope for the overthrow of the Islamic Republic, the fall of Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian dictator. Now that the domino effect of the destruction of the Islamic Republic's agents and mercenaries across the Middle East has intensified, what keeps the hope of revolution alive in the hearts of Iranians, above all, is the steadfastness and creativity of Iranian women and the young generation who refuse in any way to submit to religious dictatorship. Strikes and protests by various groups and organizations, teachers, retirees, nurses, and workers continue, and many seeking justice remain imprisoned. In this atmosphere of fear and hope, on the final days of 2024, Parastu Ahmadi, an Iranian female singer, sets before us a vision of the future in a hypothetical concert at a caravanserai in the heart of Iran. Soon, Iran will wipe the shame of the Islamic Republic from its forehead.
از خون جوانان وطن لاله وطن لاله وطن لاله دمیده از ماتم شان سر و جانم سر و خدا سر و خمیده.
And every day we continue to hear stories of courageous acts of rebellion by the people of Iran. I now invite to the stage His Worship David West, Mayor of Richmond Hill.
Well, thank you for joining us here in Richmond Hill today as we mark this solemn anniversary in honor of the victims of the downed flight PS752. Thank you very much to the organizers, the associations of families of flight PS752 victims, representing the families and loved ones of the victims for their tireless and ongoing work. It's been a true honor for me and our council to work closely with both Dr. Hamid Ismailian and Babak Payami, especially over the years. And also, I did want to say thank you very much for today and also last night's absolutely beautiful, creative, and meaningful vigils. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I would like also to give recognition to our esteemed guests from all levels of government, and they've, for the most part, been recognized, and I'm going to try not to miss anybody. But first of all, I'd like to start, Prime Minister Trudeau, thank you very much for being here and being here on pretty much all of the occasions that we've had here in Richmond Hill. Thank you very much, Minister Parsa, for your steadfast assistance and helping us in particular. Deputy Leader Melissa Lanceman, MP Leah Taylor-Roy, MP Anna Roberts. I understand Councillor Gila Marto is here. Thank you very much. And from our own council, I want to thank Carol Davidson, Scott Thompson, Councillor Castro-Liu, Councillor Simon Tree, Councillor Karen Silovitz for being here. And also, thank you very much to City Manager Darlene Joslin, YRP Police Superintendent Ian Hill, Inspector Colin Alexander, Deputy Chief of Police Paulo Da Silva, Fire Chief Brian Burbage, Deputy Joe Bennett, and Deputy Tom Rayburn. And the reason I say that is I think the people here who have lost loved ones in this terrible tragedy need to know that these people that I've just mentioned collectively represent hundreds of thousands of people that stand behind you, each and every one of you, for the loss and the tragedy that has happened to us. Folks like us that represent our communities really appreciate the work that this association has done, but we continue to represent you and the pain and the suffering and the sorrow that you have had and continue to have through this senseless loss. But we do come together today to offer comfort, company, and compassion to you that have lost loved ones in this ill-fated flight PS752. 5 years ago today, 177 people were lost. This staggering loss was felt around the world, but here in Richmond Hill, the impact from our residents has been tremendous. 44 of those killed had direct ties to this city. These were our friends, our neighbors, our colleagues, and valued members of our community. They had direct ties to this city, so our community grieves with you on a very, very personal level. This catastrophe marks the largest mass loss of life in a single day for Richmond Hill on foreign soil. So I stand with you today, both as mayor and as a resident, acknowledging this terrible crime and offering my heartfelt support to our fellow citizens, along with my members of council. It has been a real privilege to work with this City Council and the Association of Flight PS752 Victims and the Richmond Hill staff as we act on our commitment to create a memorial here in Richmond Hill to commemorate the lives that were lost. This memorial will be a place where family, friends can gather, remember and reflect on the precious lives and of the loved ones that were lost and not here with us today. It will also serve as a source of education for future generations, a marker for tomorrow's Richmond Hill residents to learn about the terrible injustice and impact of the flight PS752. Through this action, Richmond Hill is demonstrating our support for this grieving community. While this is a very somber day of reflection and remembrance, I'm excited to share this announcement with you. It is my hope that this place of remembrance will offer some healing and comfort. We are honored to be entrusted by the families to create this important space, so thank you. My appreciation for many Richmond Hill families of Iranian descent only continues to grow as I witness their commitment to building an inclusive society, one that respects all people with resiliency, passion, and hard work, and I must admit, very much obvious from today, under very difficult circumstances. You're a very strong people, and we thank you very much for the contribution that you make each and every day to our city of Richmond Hill. So we thank you for those contributions, and I want you to know without any question that we stand with you in your grief today and every day. I very much appreciate this opportunity to be with you today on this somber anniversary. May you find strength in the love of this community that surrounds you. Thank you very much.
پنج سال خشم. خشم من از اندوهم بزرگتر است. خشم من از قدرت شما بزرگتر است. خشم من از ستاره‌های روی سینه شما بزرگتر است. خشم من از قدرت اورادی که می‌خوانید و آیه‌هایی که در توجیه جنایتتان بر زبان می‌آورید بزرگتر است. من با خشمم زندگی می‌کنم. خشمم را در تورنتو، در مونتریال، در نیویورک، در فرانکفورت، در واشنگتن، در لندن، در بروکسل و در برلین به شما نشان دادم. خشمم را در تهران، در زاهدان، در سنندج، در ساری، در تبریز، در تمام جهان به شما نشان دادم. در خیابان‌های خالی فریاد کشیدم و در میان مردم خشمم را در مشتی گره کرده به سوی شما نشانه رفتم. من با خشمم زندگی می کنم. در روزهایی که تعداد آدم‌ها از تعداد عکس جانباختگان کمتر بود، خشم من با عکس‌هایی که بر سینه می فشردم جریان داشت. در روزهایی که هزاران نفر در کنارم بودند، خشم من مصری بود، از آدمی به آدمی دیگر سرایت می کرد. ما هزاران نفر بودیم، خشمگین، عصیانگر، آماده طغیان. پنج سال است سلاح خشممان را صیقل می دهیم، علیه آنها که به زندگی شلیک کردند، علیه آنها که به بیگناهی، به زیبایی، به جوانی شلیک کردند. خشم من در لحظه خداحافظی عزیزانم در فرودگاه با من مانده است. خشم من در سکوت این مزارها با من مانده است. خشم من در عکس‌ها، در اشک‌ها، در دلتنگی و در جدایی با من مانده است. من سلاح خشمم را صیقل می دهم برای روزی که آدمکش‌ها را در دادگاهی ببینم. من سلاح خشمم را برای روز نهایی صیقل می دهم، چون خشم من از اندوهم بزرگتر است. چون خشم من از قدرت شما بزرگتر است.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, and to run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightable wrong, and to love pure and try when your arms are too weary and to reach the unreachable stars. This is our quest to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without purchase of cause, to be willing to march into hell for that heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to that ultimate quest, that our hearts will lie peaceful and calm when we're laid to our rest. And the world will be better for this, that although scorned and covered with scars, still strove with our last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable, the unreachable, the unreachable
I thank Golrukh Aminian and Salman Shahi on piano for their heartwarming performances today. 5 years have passed, and time has done nothing. Families of victims have gotten used to looking at photos and videos of their loved ones, forever frozen in time. Grandchildren, children, parents, brothers and sisters, friends, never growing older, never celebrating another birthday. The void, however, has grown larger, more palpable. In this torrent of pain, there is the smell of smoke, fire, and blood under their noses, and they fight in this world where injustice is constantly swayed towards what's most convenient. They fight against impunity that's been rampant for far too long. We will not forget, nor shall we ever forgive. I thank you all for your presence today. Our program is now concluded.